All right, here we go with the last part of the net ionic equations worksheet. So in number 6, we've got the potassium phosphate going with the aluminum nitrate, and we get the solid right here, the solid precipitate aluminum phosphate. Aluminum phosphate then sticks together right here as AlPO4. And this net ionic equation right here with the +3 up here and the -3 right here ends up being +1 for your correcting. Circle, square, star, and box that, put +1 next to it. Number 7, beryllium iodide is an aqueous solution and it reacts with the copper sulfate. We end up being copper iodide, which is soluble, and the beryllium sulfate, which is insoluble. This is another one that's kind of a weird exception because it doesn't talk about berylliums in the sulfate at all, but this one ends up being a solid, and so if you got it where you had beryllium sulfate soluble and split up, please change that and then end up getting 1 point for the complete net ionic equation like this, where beryllium reacts with the sulfate to make beryllium sulfate. Once again, you'd never be asked on a test like that. That's not in
Good morning, staff. Ann Myers would just like me to remind you all it's half price fire sale at the school store, so head on down now. The half price at the school store.
Well, that's nice. We have half price at the school store during the video as well. So now we have nickel nitrate, and it's reacting with the potassium bromide, and then we end up with the nickel bromide right here. Notice it's nickel 3, so it's NiBr3, and then potassium nitrate. Everything ends up being soluble here, so we have no net ionic equation. So it's 1 point right here for having all of these written as ions. Make sure you've got nickel +3 right here on both sides, and then everything cancels. So number 8, there's actually no reaction. Number 9, we end up with the cobalt sulfide over here as the precipitate. That being written as the precipitate right here in the complete ionic, and the net ionic is worth 1 point in number 9. In number 10, we end up with the barium phosphate being the precipitate over here on the right hand side. Barium phosphate sticks together as a solid and everything else breaks up. And then notice how there's 6 ammonias and 6 ammonias and 6 nitrates and 6 nitrates, because the 2 and the 3 right here go together to give you that. Getting the complete net ionic equation, or the net ionic equation right here earns 1 point. So far in this we're up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 possible points right there. Number 11, this one ends up giving you iron hydroxide in the end. And the iron hydroxide right here ends up being the net ionic equation solid. So this sticks together here at the end. And so that species right here ends up giving you +1 because you're the iron hydroxide solid. So 1 for that net ionic equation. And then the very last problem right here, the rubidium fluoride ends up being one of those weird exceptions again, where the fluoride right here ends up being insoluble. And I only have the complete ionic here, which is going to be the part that earns you a point this time. And so the complete ionic equation with copper fluoride end up being a solid earns you 1 point at the end. So the total number of points when you're done correcting should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 for this part. And then of course we had 4 out of 4 for the question number 5 right up here, 5.5. And then we had 10 points before that. So we end up with 10 plus 4 plus 7, or 21 total. So put the number total correct out of 21 at the top of your page. Make sure you take good pictures of it with your iPad, put it into a Google document, and then look on the schedule for where to turn it in. Share that Google document with anyone in ISD 194 can view, and then you can turn it in from there. Good luck.